This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Good morning, and thank you so much for keeping with us on UBC TV. In case you have just joined, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra, but it is an extension of Good Morning Uganda. So we are always here every weekday from 6:30. That is when we begin our live broadcast, so please kindly make it a date with us, because we start your day. So much humor there to brighten up your mornings, but also very importantly is to make sure you're very informed of what is happening locally and internationally. So it's very a fully packed breakfast with laughters, relievers of how hard the night was, yet very informative. I'm Robert Chirabonyonyitono. It is the Extra, an extension, and this morning we are going to be discussing so much regarding Uganda National Oil Company's projects. That is the liquefied petroleum gas project, and of course the Kabalega Industrial Park that is in Hoima district. Now these are projects that UNOC is embarking on, and I have two ladies with me in studios this morning. I have Sarah Banege, who happens to be the head corporate affairs at UNOC. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much. Sarah Banage is my name, and you're correct in saying that I work with the Uganda National Oil Company. We are very happy to be here today.
And then at the extreme end, I have Rola Sezi, who happens to be the brand and digital officer at UNOC. You're most welcome.
Thank you, Robert. It's such a pleasure to be here. As you said, my name is Laura Sezi. I push UNOC's brand, and I make sure they are digitally present. Yeah.
Well, I see some of your works.
Thank you.
On the various digital platforms.
Yeah.
They keep me updated with what is happening.
That's
so
the
at
goal.
least I've come across your works. The bosses should know that indeed.
There's a raise, eh?
Yeah. And we share that as well. Now, going to today's topic, even before we dive into the Kabalega and the LPG project, a person watching us, when we talk about UNOC, Uganda National Oil Company, let's first understand, who are you? What do you do? Meaning UNOC, not you.
Yeah. I know. I know.
And that is a very good starting point, because there will always be someone out there who gets to know a little more on what we do. So we are happy to share. UNOC is just an abbreviation, but we pride ourselves in being called the Uganda National Oil Company. And we're a company established, it's a limited company. We've been set up by an act of parliament, and our chief goal, really, our mandate, is to represent the government of Uganda, the commercial interests they have. We represent government business in the entire oil and gas value chain. What do I mean? We are a company. Government has investors who have come here, and they are called, in our language, we call them joint venture partners, but really they are investors. And so you will find UNOC operating in the upstream. Upstream, I mean in the exploration of the oil, in the development of the oil. You will find UNOC there. We represent you, the public and the government of Uganda. You will find us after you've explored and you've developed, you found the oil. You must bring it out of the ground, but you must add value to it. So you will find UNOC in the value chain of refining. So we are in the midstream, which is really the refinery process where we add value to the crude we have removed from the ground. Then you will find us in the transportation. So you've removed it, you've added value, you must transport it. So you will find us in the transportation, which is the EACOP, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline. We represent government there as well. And we also represent you downstream, what we call, if you've extracted it, you've removed it from the ground, you've added value to it, you're transporting it, it must meet the end user. So we operate also in the downstream business, which is really storing the refined product, and we store and also selling it in bulk, you know, to the companies where you go to pick it at the pump. So understanding UNOC and how we represent government in the commercial interests in its business on the entire chain, exploration, developing, value adding, which is refining, transportation, the East African crude oil pipeline, then the end user in the storage tanks, in importing it in big volumes and selling it to the oil marketing companies so that you can use it. That's what we do really. It's a long chain, and in most countries people do components. You'll find a country, an oil company, the national oil company just in the exploration maybe. They may not be in the down end, but for us we have the opportunity to represent in the upstream, the middle stream and the downstream. Yeah, and so because we do that, we are advantaged because we can advise government, you know, on the different things it can grow, ventures it can go into. We in a good position to advise government that at the exploration end, it's about time you get into a new block because that is already running well. You always need to keep growing what you explore and develop. So we're in a very good position in that we advise government on new ventures, new areas it can explore and invest and move into. Really, that's what we do. And so far we are doing a great job.
Ugandans watching now know who to hold accountable very well.
Yeah.
Sarah is here, you've heard very well UNOC's mandate and what they're supposed to do as we wait for our first oil come 2025, the good Lord being leading the way to that, because we are so excited.
Yes.
And we hope we hit that deadline. Now we know anything we entrusted you.
Right.
To be our ears, to be our face, to be our eyes, UNOC.
Right.
Very interesting. Now this takes me, today we are looking at the Kabalega Industrial Park, a project by UNOC. First and foremost, to a person listening or hearing this for the first time, when we talk about UNOC and the Kabalega Industrial Park, Sarah, what is this all about?
Now, an industrial park is something that is like a given when you're going to have a refinery in this business. Because when you're refining oil, crude, when you're refining, you get a good product, which is maybe the petrol, you get the diesel, you get the aviation fuel and the kerosene. Whenever you refine, the place where you've refined and the proximity of a refinery inevitably creates an industrialization of what we call chemical industries. Chemical industries really are just things after you've got your good fuel, there is residue that remains, and that residue is used to do totally different things. So an industrial park is put in place in proximity to a refinery because it's going to act as an industry place. Industries will grow out of being in proximity with the refinery. So the Kabalega Industrial Park really was set up with that in mind. And so it is, as you hear it, Kabalega Industrial Park, found in Kabalega sub-county. This is in Hoima, near northern Hoima, in Hoima really. But I think that the real thing we need to know that it is in Kabalega and in Buseruka. So it is a huge piece of land, like an industrial park would be. This one is 29.5 kilometers squared, which in understanding, if people want to understand it well, that's close to approximately 7,500 acres of land, a big space really. And so this space has been placed very very, very advantageously placed because it is in proximity. It's going to be in the same place where you'll find the refinery, and because of the refinery being there, you will definitely have a number of industries coming up to utilize the residue from refining and use it as inputs or raw material to grow different industries. So we are preparing this park because we know the refinery is a given, and you will need this space for the industrialization and all the other things we're going to talk about that exist in there.
There, I'll be very interested more in a fertilizer factory that may come up.
Yeah,
person into farming and passionate there. Now, this takes me to Rora, this industrial park. Who is going to oversee its management, you know, its affairs, and a bit more of its components? Because it seems when the private sector comes around, now the music changes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So KIP, Kabalega Industrial Park, is UNOC's project. We are in charge of developing it, managing it, running the operations of it. But we are cognizant of the fact that we cannot do this alone. So ultimately, we will have to partner up with joint venture partners. So they will come in, they will step in terms of investment, but also management and building the park. Like Sarah mentioned, we have the crude oil coming from projects like Kingfish and Tilenga. That oil will come out and go two ways. It will either get out of the country, be exported as crude oil, or 60,000 barrels will come to Uganda's refinery to be refined into products Ugandans can use. So that refinery, as she mentioned, sits inside KIP, right? So inside KIP, we'll also have Uganda's second international airport, the Kabalega International Airport. It is progressing very well. It's at 90%. It's there. We'll have the refinery lectures mentioned, and we'll have petrochemical industry. You were spot on when you said fertilizers. It will be a big aspect of the industrial park. We'll have an export hub there. We'll have warehouses. We'll have cold rooms. It's going to be a full city. When she said 7,500 acres or hectares, that's the equivalent of Entebbe town. That's how big the industrial park is. So UNOC will find the right joint venture partners and run this mini town the most efficient way it's supposed to be run. Yeah.
Now, when you talk about still this industrial park, this seems a very big chunk of land.
It is, yeah.
UNOC running, managing,
developing.
There are some obvious questions that come with, have we sorted these issues of the land, all those that may come in as we've really hit the set-off period. An investor comes and says, well, then later there is a patriotic Ugandan going to court over something very simple, and I'll put this to you.
Okay, yeah. The space is actually free. It is empty. That process of moving people out of it, compensating them, was already done. So when I talk about 7,500 acres, I'm talking about a greenfield, empty, free of human settlement. Yes, it is free, and that process was already done. Probably what I can talk about as people who are tasked with developing, operating, and managing, there are certain things we must be already putting in place right now. Infrastructure. So the necessary infrastructure right now is where we are, and so in terms of the power, in terms of the road network, all those things that are required, the necessary processes have been done so that it's ready to go. So the infrastructure like the power, infrastructure like the roads, those are things that are now ready to take off, because the right people, the right stakeholders have come on board, and those are going to start. And then in terms of, because it's chunks of land that ultimately have to be given to investors, the policy, the land policies for allocating it to the different investors, those have been concluded. What remains to be done, and that is something Cabinet has a task to do, is approving the land rates. So you have the parceled land, and what rate will you be paying for us? Because it's a money-making venture for us ultimately, like the way you see Namnamve, the way you see industrial parks, you also make money from them. So where we are at now, the policies, the land policies has already been concluded, and the land rates for which the investors will be paying is what is going to be discussed and approved in cabinet. But on the infrastructure side, the water reticulation, the waste management to be done, the road network, all that has been put together in the proper master plan and is ready to be set rolling. What will be placed where, so that everything is developed at the same time. Because when you have an airport that's already done up to 95%, you are at a good place, because that is going to bring in the equipment that is going to develop both the refinery and anything else that will be set up there.
Very interesting. Of course, one interesting factor is these will depend on the refinery. Later on, you'll have to give me an update of how far, because we are waiting for the byproducts, so that these other factories that will come in on industries benefit. If this is not ready, then these may not have meaning. But I'll still go. I'll go to Rora here. The Kabalega Industrial Park, why is it important in the commercialization of Uganda's oil and gas?
Kabalega Industrial Park, KIP, is not only important to Uganda's oil and gas sector, but it is very monumental, in my opinion, to Uganda's economy. Why? At its full glory, we're going to see KIP impact Uganda's GDP by 4.1 billion US dollars. That's huge, Robert, you have to agree. We want to see it educating 4,000 students at a time. That's education. It's going to have a health facility, so you can imagine it's employing people to treat people. It's treating up to 100 inpatients and 300 outpatients. But most importantly, it's going to have 35,000 people working in there. That's 35,000 families directly and indirectly impacted. We're going to have a depopulation. By this I mean people in and out, of up to 25,000 people. So those are people who have livelihoods in and out. It's going to affect jobs, like I've said, 35,000. It's going to push money into the economy. It's going to create a livelihood that has not been existent in that area, first of all, because like Sarah said, it's just an empty park right now. So we're going to see the domino effect around the city also develop. So I'll let Sarah add on this, but in my opinion, the GDP and the jobs are numbers people should keep top of mind and hold us accountable to.
Yes, sir.
You know, we keep talking about industrialization as a country. And so when you have an industrial park established just to receive the industries, you're in a good place, because the kind of industry is going to develop. I'll just give you a glimpse into this. When I talk about the petrochemical industries that are going to create the jobs she's talking about and impact the GDP, you're looking at paints. You know, we have paint industries here, but they've been importing the inputs. Now, when you refine oil, crude oil, the feedstock, the residue that remains is a raw material that creates the paints that we use. This place, the paints you have. Again, the raw material coming from refining crude creates your carpet industries, your clothing industry, plastic industry, all the plastics that you see, the fertilizer that you're so happy to discuss. Now, if you have fertilizers, then you're looking at a different spur in the direction of agriculture, because this being our main key income earner. You have your paints, you have the plastics, you have things like glass. You know the glass we import? A lot of these things we are importing right now, we are just importing finished products. But when you have the residue coming from refining, you now get the raw material to start the world we live in, the world of plastics, the world of this PVC on your table, the world of rubber, all the rubber, the roads. Imagine the tires that we have. So if you have the input into rubber, then you start the rubber industry. You have the input into plastics, Then you start the plastic industry. The medical world, as you know it, is a plastic world, medical resins. So if you have this residue coming from the crude, refining crude, you then start a whole life of the medical requirements, the components, syringes, bottles, everything that is in the medical, these industries that where we buy from all these medical things we import live in finished product, you will definitely have to start them now in this industrial park. So in my world, I wake up in the morning, the paints around my room, the carpet I step on, the clothes I wear, then if I was to go have breakfast, food preservatives. Food preservatives have in there, they're created from a raw material that comes from a residue out of refining crude. So the food has a longer shelf life because of preservatives industries that are coming out of this being in proximity to the refinery. Then you get into your car, the plastic components of it, the rubber shoes you wore, the whole life. And why we need to refine and finally have these petrochemical industries set up, that industrialization takes off. It takes off, the jobs happen, our life changes, because I'll give you an update, at least as far as I know, we were spending up to 1 trillion shillings, that's the statistics from URA, in terms of importing fertilizers. Now that import bill will fall away. We were spending up to 1.8, I think was it billion? I have some figures here. And we were importing the raw material that spurs the plastics industry in Uganda. We import that raw material. The glass we use, all the commercial buildings, and your home also has glass. We import it. Now, that import bill for plastics, glass, fertilizers, rubber will fall apart. Now, if you can save that import bill, you can imagine how much else it can do for us and how well any investor would feel having not to import raw materials. They are next door. They're just here. So that's what we see this Kabalega Industrial Park, its commercialization of the oil and gas sector, blow up into something that we all look forward to having.
Very interesting, and we hope all goes well, because sometimes you get shocked of when something manufactured in Uganda is more expensive than that imported into this country.
Because of the raw material.
Now you try to do the mathematics, and to an ordinary person you just get confused. For the Sarahs, the Roras, and maybe the Roberts, you can understand. Sarah will tell you the raw materials, the one will tell you, hey, we are making jeans here, now stop. But when you look at quality, you look at cost, they are not in tandem. They leave you wondering. But of course we believe this will tremendously.
This is what will spur us. Yeah.
Spur this. If the raw materials, we have them here, you're making the product here, then why is it more expensive than what we are exporting, what we are importing into the country? Well, allow me go for a short break. When I return, Rora and Sarah are here, and we'll now be discussing the liquefied, that is petroleum gas, something you need in your home. This firewood charcoal thing in the 21st century. Let's return shortly.
Once upon a time, there lived identical twins who gave birth to beautiful princes and princesses.
Their mothers gave their babies' bodies a lot of care by applying their skin with baby junior jelly.
So dry-dead chariots and everyone would admire their glowing skin. Fun fact, baby junior prevents diaper rash, dry and sensitive skin.
Moms all over Africa love baby junior jelly. Baby junior's the skin. No is anymore. Baby junior. Baby junior.
Jugo.
Yo.
How are you? Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
But yeah, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Joko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better.
PDM, my parish, my development, my life. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that break, and thank you so much for keeping it with us on UBC TV. This is the Extra. In case you have just joined, I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono, and I have officials, two ladies from the Uganda National Oil Company, that is UNOC, with whom we are discussing two projects. That is the KIP, Kabalega Industrial Park, and the LPG, that is the liquefied petroleum gas. Now, we've discussed the Kabalega Industrial Park, what is going to be there, why is it important, and of course what we stand to save and benefit as a country. Now, in the interest of time, allow me quickly shift to the LPG. And this is where I want to bring in Roller first. When you talk about liquefied petroleum gas, help our viewer throw more light on this. What is this?
Liquefied petroleum gas is a byproduct of the development of crude. When you refine crude oil, you can get LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. But in a nutshell, LPG is a flammable hydrocarbon gas that is commonly used in cooking appliances and heating equipment. So that canister that you have in your house, that's LPG. That's what we call LPG. It's slowly picking up in Uganda, although the majority of our usage is charcoal and firewood, unfortunately. But it has its core advantages. It is very efficient. It's portable. You know, you're carrying a whole sack of charcoal for the equivalent of half a canister of gas. You know what I mean? Firewood is bulky. It's portable. It's efficient. It's safe. It's affordable. So yeah, that's what we're here to talk about. We are going to categorize it into the current project we're running, and also what plans UNOC has in the future for LPG. Yeah.
Now, to an ordinary Ugandan, why is it important? Because for you may look at it, it's a sack in what?
Yeah.
But to them, why even must I buy gas? People know it is dangerous, it is this. So let's look at the importance.
Yeah.
Let's try to entice, inform Ugandans where they should take this direction.
Okay, so let's just try and put things in context here, right? What are we currently using as our energy source in our homes? It is firewood, it is charcoal. Where is that firewood and charcoal coming from? It is coming from deforestation. Let's be honest. People are cutting down forests and trees in order to cook and keep their homes warm, etc., right? So what has the impact of all this been? We've seen Uganda lose 41.4% of its total forest cover just in the past 100 years. So that's two 50-year-old men, and 50% of the cover is gone. Give us 100 more years and it's going to be completely gone. Actually, 100 is long, because they've estimated that by 2050, we're going to see Uganda's total forest cover outside of protected areas completely gone. Robert, we have 94% of Ugandans using charcoal. 94% is so impactful on the environment. So we're not only talking about environment, we're also talking about our health. You're breathing in soot. The respiratory diseases are killing people left, right, and center. Sarah is going to take us through some statistics of how many people are dying just because of how they are cooking their gas. So why LPG is important is it's literally going to save lives. We're going to see less women die, people grow older because they can live. We're going to see our forest cover be redeemed. We're going to see weather patterns be more predictable. Farmers know when it's going to actually rain. So that's why LPG is important. LPG ultimately is important because we can't afford to cut down any more trees. They are not there. They are literally getting done. They are over. So now what's going to happen? We're going to have a stranded country. We've seen charcoal's prices shoot up 180%. It's no longer going to be the affordable energy source that we thought it used to be. So what we are saying now, get LPG. Why? It is going to reduce the air pollution of our country. We're going to have cleaner air for our children. We're going to have less diseases in our respiratory systems. We're going to have fewer greenhouse gases in the environment. We're going to have less trees being cut down. So longer lives, cleaner cooking. That's what we're trying to preach right now. It's not so much about the product, but it's about what your household could achieve by just switching how you cook. Yeah.
Now, very interesting, and I hope the public is ready to embrace this, because in fact in urban centers, this is the way to go, by embracing it. But even if I go deeper to embracing ability and affordability and all that, I want to bring in Sarah here when it comes to government's policy and position on LPG. Yes, because that's very critical at such a point of time.
Yeah, actually government's policy, we want to transition people from this use of biomass, fuel, wood, and all that business that is destroying the environment, the way Laura says. We want to transition people to this clean, this clean energy fuel and create modern kitchens, modern way of living. That's our plan. But in terms of numbers, government's policy is to increase usage, accessibility of this gas. People could refer to it as gas. It is us in this industry who call it liquefied petroleum gas. But government policy, really, to get to your point, is to increase household accessibility to 20%. That is by 2025, then to 50% by 2050. Because right now you have 1%, okay, something below 5%. And so government is putting everything in place to make sure this transition happens to a mark of 20% and to a mark of 50% in 2040. And what is it doing? You have had, there were exemptions on the cylinders so that people can find it cheaper. So that tax exemption works so that you have more access. When you remove the tax on a particular component or a product, then you make it more accessible because it is less expensive. But government has also done the distribution. The Ministry of Energy itself has been into a very serious distribution of the cylinders, and that is in line, in tandem with that 50% household increment of 2040. So they've been increasing the cylinders in terms of the distribution. They've done something on the tax exemption. Then the most important thing is that in the oil and gas sector, the investment into LPG is deliberate. It is a deliberate move. The joint venture partners, Total Energies, UNOC, and CNOC, it's deliberate to invest in plants of gas, the LPG gas plants, still to remain in line with a deliberate government policy of increasing accessibility, household accessibility first to 20%, then finally to 50%. So those are really deliberate moves. The policy in place, there is an LPG association that also is trying to see how to increase this accessibility. The ministry's deliberate effort to do the distribution of the cylinders, the tax issue, and then the investment. Those are deliberate government steps to increase household.
Yeah, I want to bring in Rolla more when it comes to first the issue of affordability. Yes, you've said accessibility is something government is working on, but affordability is also very, very important.
That's the tax exemption.
The tax exemption. One is wondering, yes, my grandmother in Kasoga Kakuto, my grandfather in Kinkizi, if they really want to go for this, even if the cylinder is there, just give you a simple example. Government has invested so much in rural electrification. I was in one part of this country where I asked Ugandans, I saw an electric pole just in his fence, in his compound, sorry, not a fence, in his compound. And when I looked, you know, being a journalist is also another problem. But you know, you have that eagerness always to find the eye. So I made this observation. There was an electric pole, but the wires were just going through. I saw it on the first house, the second house, and they told me, Gaita ugagenda kuchuma chaba yindi. So I asked, but also you have a pole. I don't see any cable connecting to your house. And said, I can't afford electricity.
Okay.
Much as it's just, the pole is just in my compound, I can't afford it. So us producing this liquefied petroleum gas, if the ordinary Ugandan may know it's sold there, but rush to look for the forest, that affordability, please, I'm much interested in it.
Okay, so first of all, Sarah already mentioned that these tax exemptions really impact the price you're purchasing something at. But remember, Robert, we said the price of charcoal is steadily rising. You're saying go to the forest and cut, but where will they be cutting from at some point? You know what I mean? They're going to have to start purchasing charcoal because there'll be nothing left to cut. But it's increasing at a rate of 180% per year. So the math has been done. LPG is actually more energy efficient in terms of how much energy you get per unit. So what you can do more with a small quantity of LPG, you'll need a lot more charcoal to get done. Prices are increasing this side, there's tax exemption. So when you talk about affordability, for an institution, let me say like a school or a hospital, or they will definitely be spending way less if they're purchasing LPG as compared to charcoal. For the usual households, let's do the math. You will see that what you're spending on actual charcoal compared to how much you would be spending on an LPG canister supplied will be much less. Yeah.
But also, you see, let's also flip the coin.
Sure.
So you are saying the gas is expensive, but you are always in hospital because the usage of biomass things like the wood fuel, the severe respiratory diseases that come out of that. I mean, I saw some statistics that 30% of the national, in Uganda, the national morbidity disease burden, 30% disease burden is actually from using the biomass fuels, wood. So 30% of our people here are in hospitals diseased because of wood fuel and the related things, soot, fire, maybe proper fire burns, but mainly the burden on the women and the children. So you see, once you get the woman sick, because she's always in the wood fuel business of pushing air, then the children will not be well. And that's why this figure, 30% is a very huge figure for the disease burden to be as a result of something that has a solution. So ultimately, when people do the numbers in terms of the charcoal is also not available because the trees have a finite, they are done, then you are also always in hospital, the children are in hospital, the respiratory diseases. That's when the issue of the affordability comes in, because at the end of the day, you have one basket, Mr. Robert, in your home. You have this 1 million you must spend on everything. But now if 30% of it is going to go to save mommy, children, and all that just because of the hospital bill, then the light bulb comes on. That we probably need to move into more clean, modern cooking habits. And that's where the UNOC LPG liquefied petroleum gas project comes in.
Well, very interesting here to hear that really UNOC is also looking at LPG as a priority for all Ugandans. Now, this is manufactured here, definitely.
Yes.
So it is our thing. And government comes up with a very good policy in terms of taxation. But remember, we are going to be having both the private and the government. I've seen some cans that have government of Uganda.
That's the distribution being done currently by the Ministry of energy, and really it was to expand accessibility. Yes. Now when you expand accessibility, you also need the source. Where does it come from? And that's why I told you that the deliberate investment into this area by the joint venture partners we are in with, Total, Sinok, and ourselves. That's where we come in, because you give the canisters or the cylinders, but you also need the product in country so that you can be able to refill the free canisters. The biggest cost really, if you look at the gas, I use it in my home as well, the biggest cost is the initial cost of the cylinder. So if somebody can, the refill is not as bad as the initial cost.
Definitely.
All right? So when the Ministry of Energy comes in to distribute those, and a target of 1 million people, and keep growing the numbers, because it has this target of 50% household accessibility by 2040, then a big burden has gone off your income, because the cylinder will be available. The refill process then kicks in, and if we have our LPG coming through the plants that are being deliberately built in our oil fields, then you will now even stop the actual importation of the gas, because it will be in country. You have the cylinders already distributed to you. That's how you grow numbers. That's how you grow numbers. But to answer your question, the mindset change is one of the biggest, and one of the things that government is deliberately doing, including ourselves, what we are going to start, is this mindset change awareness. One, people believe that a gas is a killer. Yeah, for sure it is, if you have not been educated properly. So we are beginning from let's teach people the benefits and the usage, how to use it, because it's a simple thing, turn on, but you must teach the people. Now, the mindset then, when Laura tells you about how many people are sick and people are seeing they're really paying a lot of their money on respiratory diseases or related things, they then want to find out, so what's the alternative? So we come in to teach you LPG. LPG is your alternative because you're moving into modern cooking. When you look at a kitchen that is, we have clear examples here. Our first pilot project as UNOC, our pilot is going to be at the Uganda Petroleum Institute in Chigumba. So they had this charcoal, really high-end biomass kitchen. And as you know, charcoal kitchens, with all the soot and the color, everything does not read well of a brand. So we come in, and this is our project, we come in to transition people to modern cooking. Modern cooking demands that you get rid of the charcoal. We are providing huge 2-ton tanks. A 2-ton tank is a big one, because this is an institution, an education institution. Chigumba is a big place. So we provide the 2-ton tank, we put it there, and we already have helped you with the fact that you have a 2-ton tank in your compound, and so you then remodel your kitchen so that you have, instead of the sooted walls, you now have a clean wall. But also, the men and women who cook for these students, right from breakfast, lunch, and supper, always exposed to this huge biomass soot, you suddenly change their flip around their lives. They cease to be in that 30% morbidity disease burden ratio, because now they're using a clean gas to cook. There is no soot in it, and she said it's very efficient per unit, burns faster. You need much less, and when you're cooking in big areas like those, you want an energy source that is very fast, because breakfasts are served on time. Now, this is where UNOC is coming in. We have begun our LPG project, and ours, it's a distribution of a 2-ton tank. It's a big one. So our customers, we're looking at huge education institutions that can take that. That cannot work in your home. In your home, you need the cylinder that was distributed, being distributed. So we need institutions like schools, transition their minds and change them into clean kitchens, clean modern cooking. Institutions like hospitals, change their minds and transition them from the soot biomass to the clean modern cooking. The hospitals, schools, hotels. So all heavy users that can use this 2-ton one, which is not part of the household distributed ones, is our target. And so this is what we are looking at. And what we are selling is life. We're selling life. We're selling economics, cheaper. We're also saying the beauty, modern kitchens. That's really what this project
and the
of UNOC is
environment
all
as
about.
well. We need rain. We need floods to reduce.
Actually, most important in
The
this day and
environment.
age is the environment.
Exactly.
Well, Sarah is also a good marketing salesperson. But we are selling this, we are selling this. But the reality is, this is the way to go. There's so many benefits with LPG, and you can't compare with other sources that are not renewable and not safe for one's health. Well, we must get out of here for more programming. But I'll just give each of you ladies strictly a minute, and I'll begin with Laura.
Robert, thank you so much for having us. The time definitely wasn't enough. UNOC is participating in monumental projects. We were able to tackle 2 today, but in case we did not offer enough clarity on anything, I want to urge viewers to email us in case of questions. We have a Twitter page, it's called UNOC_UG. We have an email, info.unoc@unoc.co.ug. Send us your questions. If it's about jobs, if it's about how you want to supply something at the industrial park, if you're interested in learning about the LPG, which you want a tank at your hospital, get in touch with us. If there's information you need shared, so we're here to avail it. That's what we're here to do.
Sir, as we move out of here.
Yes, I will also add on the telephone number because everybody has a line. Can you just jot this down? 314-314-600. Yeah, you can reach us on the telephone. You can go to our website. Just type in UNOC, UNOC, and you definitely reach us on the website. The point is, we want to give you all the information you need to protect our environment. I will start with that. Sell you life and sell you a tank. And sell you a tank. So it's been great. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, and of course to the UNOC family. One thing that is very important is oil is a big asset to any nation. It can be a blessing and it can be a curse. Our eyes are on you, UNOC, because we entrusted anything to do with oil to the Ugandan National Oil Company. We hope that Uganda's oil will surely be a blessing. The jobs you've talked about in the Kabalega Industrial Park, that we see them. The cheapness in fertilizers, the cheapness in all these avenues, that we come to see this dream. And my prayer to the good Lord is that 2025, we get to our first oil. It seems there's so much that has to be put together. But we hope and pray that we hit that deadline. Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono, wishing you a blessed day. God bless Uganda. Good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
You used to tell me that I don't make you happy. All that time you would be complaining. I'll call you every day, You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubi Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Once upon a time, there lived identical twins who gave birth to beautiful princes and princesses.
Their mothers give their babies' bodies a lot of care by applying on their skin with baby Junior jelly.
Though dry-Dutch Harriets and everyone would admire their glowing skin. Fun fact, Baby Junior prevents diaper rash, dry and sensitive
Moms
skin.
all over Africa love baby Junior jelly. Baby Junior's the skin. No more worries anymore. Boo, 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 boo. Baby Junior.
Baby Junior.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa.
Ekirai.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda wange. Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just